Everybody is dealing with something. And that's really why I want to share these stories, because the more stories we tell, the more people can relate to them, and hopefully we can help, get through their own struggle.
Yeah, so it's super simple to do a podcast. You basically just need a couple of microphones and sit down and talk for a little while.
Your workout routine is not one size fits all.
We're constantly publishing new content. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.
All right, guys. So I'm excited to do this podcast today with my BF and personal trainer, Alexis Fourman. We have been talking about doing a podcast on this topic for a while because you with personal training and the profession that you have, and me with life coaching, we very much hear a lot of the same things consistently as far as exercise goes, and kind of the pain points around exercise, lack of motivation, having a hard time fitting it in, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to start, feeling frustrated. And so you and I said, let's have a talk about these things and share some of our insight as to what works for us. Because I will say that's one thing that I think you and I have got nailed down. We're very consistent with our exercise. And we have been for a really long time, even before we knew each other.
Correct.
So that is what our podcast is about today. We're going to talk about common pain points of exercise, mind-body connection, and we're going to give some of our favorite tips and strategies on how to get started and how to be more consistent and accountable with your own exercise plan. So welcome. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So. All right. Where do you want to start?
So we were talking because, we've hit that 40 mark, right? And we get that. Yeah. Well, 29 plus, whatever.
Yes.
So we get that a lot, right? We get stuff from men, but a lot of times right now, because we're women, we get a lot of women coming to us saying, what do I do?
Yeah.
Things aren't the same, and they're not going to be.
Right.
We all know we're changing, so that we have to change with that. Okay.
Correct.
So our recent one that we got was, I'm 40, I'm eating the same thing that I've always been eating. I'm doing the same exercises.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah.
Because I'm gaining weight, right?
Nothing changing.
So there's a big basket of things, I feel like, because one, if you're doing the same exercises, this, how often do I change your workouts?
You every month.
Every month. So every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We need that muscle confusion, right?
Yeah.
We need to change it, mix it up. Correct? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I would say. No matter what age you are, you need to be changing it up and not doing the same thing all the time, which can be kind of daunting.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Also, we know as we age, our metabolism's changing, our hormones are changing.
Oh, yeah.
So we're losing estrogen and we're losing testosterone. Right. So you and I probably aren't going to dive too much into that piece of it as far as what supplements to take. We could talk a little bit about that, but that's something we have to be mindful of is what are we going to do if our testosterone is slowing down and how do we adapt to that? Which we do have stuff, all the nutritionals has stuff for that. Yeah. But because of that, we have to change. We have to change our diet. We can't eat the same that we did when we were in our 20s.
Right.
And a lot of that's going to come to increasing our protein, right? Getting good, healthy carbs that are not necessarily from protein bars, right?
Yeah.
Love the protein bars, but they're going to have a ton of carbs in them.
Right.
And, changing our workout so that we're lifting heavier because we're also losing muscle mass. Like the studies show that, once you hit, your 40s, you're losing 1% of your lean muscle mass a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got to stop with the cardio.
Yes.
And we got to change to heavier weights.
Yes.
More resistance training.
Which, yes, those are so many good points there.
Sorry.
No, and I want you to highlight, you said muscle confusion. So kind of define that because, that might seem a little what is that to the average person?
Okay, so if I'm sitting here doing the same, let's just say push-ups, right? I want to work my chest and I'm doing push-ups every day and I do 10 push-ups or let's say 20 push-ups 5 times a week and I've done it for a year.
Yeah.
Well, our body's totally used to that.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's nothing, right? Whereas if I change it and I say, okay, I'm going to do bench press for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That first week, whoa, it's I'm sore, right?
Right.
Because your muscles are what did you do to me?
Yes.
It's the same thing as when we are used to running 5 miles. Okay. So if you're a runner and you went and ran 5 miles and you do it at your nice steady pace and you do it 3 times a week, and then all of a sudden I'm going to do a sprint workout.
Yeah.
And you didn't even do 5 miles worth of sprints, but you changed the velocity.
Yes.
You changed up your routine.
Yep.
And oh, buddy, you're sore in so many different ways. It almost makes you feel like you're not in shape, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what you want.
Well, I'll like text you sometimes and I'll be like, I mean, I work out all the time and I'll be like, I literally cannot walk today. Like, what'd you do to me? But that is the perfect example, because my muscles are that confusion. You switch things up. And so that's where you see your results.
And the same thing with the diet, right?
Yep.
You know, we always preach, Lindsay preaches, all of us preach that you can't eat the same food every day, right? We need a variety.
Yeah.
You need a variety, because then your metabolism gets so used to that and it starts to slow down because it knows when you're going to get the next food and it knows how much food you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so if we mix it up, throw in, you know, a higher carb day, just a day, or a higher carb meal, just a meal every now and then, it really kind of says, oh, buddy, I'm going to speed this up because I've got extra calories to burn.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. What about, so I'm just like thinking about all the things that come up in people's minds, because I think we're moving away from being afraid of fat. Like, I remember when we were in high school, I think I was petrified of fat. Like, I would try and eat fat-free as much as possible.
Snack
That's
bowls,
that. Yeah,
pretzels,
exactly.
everything. Yeah.
That's kind of how we grew up. But now it's more healthy fats, and healthy fats actually can help you to have better metabolism, maybe shed some pounds, all those kinds of things. We don't have to be afraid of carbs.
Correct.
You know, there was also that no carbs diet and everything. It's the right kind of carbs. You need to be eating the complex carbs, like the sweet potatoes and all those kinds of things. So I think that those are all really good points of just getting a variety of protein, fat, the right carbs in your diet, and mixing it up and not being afraid to eat some of those foods.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as like, what do you think about, a lot of people say, if I want to see results, do I need to work out more often? Do I need to work out longer? You know, like, what's your advice there?
My advice is you don't need to work out longer. You need to focus on the quality of your workout, not the quantity.
Agreed.
So you can crush a great 30-minute workout, right? If you're not on your phone, right? Getting interrupted.
Yep.
If you are focusing on lifting heavier weights and getting your heart rate up, you can crush and do, you know, a 30 or 45-minute workout.
Yeah.
I've even seen 20 or 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's really not about that. Now, I will say people need to be active. I feel they need to be active at least 3 to 4 days a week. Ideally, I'd like to see 5, but our activity level can change throughout, right? It could be a good walk, a 5-mile walk one day, or a 30-minute yoga, and that's your workout, right? That's your active recovery. But I do think 3 to 4 times of a more intense resistance strength-based workout is extremely important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was like thinking about your flex classes when you're talking about 30 minutes, because 2 of those that I go to each week are 30 minutes.
Yep.
You know, and that's not like a huge amount of time, but man, when that 30 minutes is over, I am like sweating, breathing heavily. But I also think too, if you're going to work out for a shorter amount of time, use that time, like really leverage that time. Don't be taking 5-minute breaks or whatever. Like with your class, we're not taking a whole lot of breaks. You know, a 10-second break, a 20-second break, grab some water, and then move on to the next thing. And really keeping that heart rate up and all of that, I think is important for sure. You know, so.
Well, and kind of going back to that, you know, we hear this a lot. Well, I walk into a gym and I don't know what to do.
Yes.
And then you waste time.
Yes.
Not knowing what to do. So let's say classes are not an option, right? The biggest thing is you walk into a gym and you need to say, or your house, if you're training at home, what is my goal? Is it, I'm going to work today on arms. So I'm going to go to those machines, or I'm going to get the dumbbells and work on my arms, right? So if you have that goal and that thing in mind of what muscle groups am I going to focus on today, then you should be able to attack your workout in a more efficient manner.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, and supersets, you know, I love supersets.
Okay. Explain what a superset is.
So superset is where you're going to take 2, maybe 3 exercises and you're going to rotate through them, but you're going to do different muscles groups. So let's say I do a bicep move with one exercise, and then I do a tricep move. They're opposing muscles. So when I'm doing that tricep move, whatever it is, my bicep is resting. And then 30 seconds to a minute later, I can go into that bicep move because my bicep was resting during that time frame. Yeah. Right? So then I can get through my workout a little bit faster because I'm not taking as big of breaks, and I'm getting a little bit more as far as, muscle groups involved.
For sure.
And then the compound, a lot of people don't know what a compound move, but it's when you're doing two or three muscles at the same time.
Right.
So if I want to do a lunge
with a bicep curl.
Yes. Now I've worked my legs and my arms in the same amount of time. Yeah. You're getting your heart rate up a little bit more.
I was going to say that's a great way to incorporate cardio, because anytime I do that kind of exercise, I can, I start breathing heavier, my heart rate goes up. So you're really kind of checking all three boxes there.
Yes. Yeah. So I would really recommend, if some people don't know where to start, I would say search for compound exercises, compound workout exercises.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at home.
For sure. That's great. Let's talk about the mind-body connection. This is really why you and I met.
Right?
Yeah, I love to tell this story because it's so, my focus is mental, emotional well-being, and I talk about exercise so much, and some people might think, well, that's more physical. Why is she talking about that so much? And I'm like, no, exercise is so mental. And I reached out to you. Apologize for people that already heard this story because I do tell it often, but I reached out to you at a point in my life where I was really struggling mentally from a trauma, and I knew there was something inside of me. I had been a member of the gym before. I had kind of gotten away from it. I had trained before with a different trainer, kind of just started, COVID and all those things, and just had been doing stuff on my own. But I knew there was something inside me that said, you need to get back to the gym. And you need somebody to hold you accountable. You need somebody to push you and challenge you. And that's part of your healing. And so I reached out to you. We did not know each other at that time. I said, will you please train me? And you accepted. And I will say, from the people that say it's intimidating to walk into a gym, I felt a little intimidated at that point, because I was like, I knew you as a very well-known trainer in town. I didn't really know how to use a lot of the equipment at the gym, but I just kind of was like, okay, I'm just not going to worry about that, and I'm going to go do it. And we started training twice a week, and that quickly turned to 3-4 times a week. And I can remember coming into the gym feeling, just being a ball of anxiety and coming in and saying, I'm not in a good place today, because of where I was at. And you'd be like, okay, well, let's just go do our work. Let's just go get this workout done. And an hour later, I can remember walking out of the door and just feeling like a weight had been lifted. Like it was amazing, like the effect that it had on me mentally and emotionally. And so I want to say to people, if your focus point with exercise is just, I want to lose weight, I want to build muscle, I want to fit in a certain size. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think that sometimes is not sustainable. People get discouraged quickly with that, because honestly, if you start weight training, you might gain weight. Yep. That's why I don't weigh myself very much at all. Yeah. I go by my clothes, but I think if you flip the focus to, this is how I'm going to feel my best. Yep. This is how I'm going to perform my best. If I get my workout in, my mind's going to be clear, my mood's going to be better. I'm going to get that serotonin, dopamine surge, all those things. So that's kind of where I want to encourage people to flip what you're focusing on when it comes to exercise. Like the physical part is almost like just an added bonus to me, What do you think about all that?
I think about your story. I think about a couple other people's stories when it comes to that. And I see that, and you see it. Yeah. When it clicks, when they've made that connection of how I feel, it clicks. It's not even like a thought. You don't even have to sit here and debate, am I going to come or am I not going to come? Right. Am I going to go to my basement and work out or am I not? And, piggybacking off of your story, I remember you with the other trainer, and it's not that you didn't like your other trainer or anything, but where you were at in that moment. I remember seeing you in the gym, and it was a ball cap.
I did.
And you
always-
still love your hats. I know
yeah,
you do.
yeah.
But you don't wear them nearly as much anymore.
no.
And it was a ball cap. You were down and you were doing your own thing and you were not talking to anybody else in the gym.
Yeah.
I remember that, like just where my office was.
Yeah.
And now like you're walking in and you're like talking to everybody at the front desk. You're like talking to everybody in class. And the same thing with our friend Tracy, because she's not going to care if I say her name.
Yeah.
But like I remember her reaching out to me, and she was at a very low point. She worked at home by herself. You know, doesn't have a whole lot of family here, and she came in with the baggiest sweatpants on, right? And just the confidence was low. And we worked and worked, and I just remember the first day, like she wore a tank top, and I was like. Because that was her feet. Like she felt good about herself, whether she was losing weight or not. She was comfortable in that gym, in that environment. She met people and she felt good. And then the first day she wore leggings, right?
Yes.
And so those are the things that you notice in people, like when their confidence grows.
Yep.
Even if you haven't changed your weight, your strength, you see that you're lifting heavier weights. And you've created a community.
Yeah.
So we're not like necessarily encouraging people to go to the gym, but at the same time, get yourself out there.
Yeah.
And don't be intimidated.
Right. Because you might be at a place in life where going to the gym is not feasible if you have young kids at home or whatever. But even if you just find like a friend that you're going to like check in with each other and, hey, did you get your workout done today? Or maybe you're going to do the same workout program together. That piece is huge. And, you know, I continue to have little confidence boosts. Like a couple of weeks ago, that video actually that we posted for this podcast.
Okay.
When we did the exercise with the
pull-ups.
And you did that. And I was like, there is no way. I even accused you of showing off. I was like, you're just showing off. I'm not gonna be able to do that. And then I did it, you know, and that was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. So I think the physical strength goes hand in hand with the inner strength, you know, and just being able to challenge and push yourself a little bit in that way is huge for sure. Okay. So obviously we think that there is a huge mind-body connection. Flip your focus, change what you're looking on. Let's talk about some exercise myths and misconceptions. I think especially for women, I'm sure men have this too, but you know, we kind of get caught up in our own, you know, mind when it comes to certain things. For example, like women should not lift heavy. You've already touched on that. But I remember I also used to kind of think this, like, I don't want to get bulky. Like, you know, and you would tell me you're not going to get bulky. Like, you need to lift heavy. Yeah. So let's talk about that from, first of all, just a fitness level, but also like longevity, aging well. You've told me some things in the last few weeks because I'm like, man, this is really heavy. And you're like, well, I won't steal your thunder. So go ahead.
So kind of going back to when we had the lady that talked about, you know, being over 40, you were already losing estrogen and testosterone. So we're not going to get bulky because we don't have that testosterone in us to get us bulky unless we're taking a ton of supplements.
Right.
And we are taking like maybe even illegal things. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So with the strength training, what we're finding is it directly relates to longevity.
Yes.
Grip strength is huge. That's something that's recently come out with is like we see guys a lot of times doing farmer carries, what we call with holding dumbbells or bigger barbells and walking around the room. Well, they're saying that the better the grip strength, the better the correlation there is with living longer because you're able to catch yourself when you're falling and you have better balance. Okay, and balance is huge.
Makes sense.
At the gym, we even teach a balance class to help with fall prevention.
Right.
Same thing with calf raises. I recently had a physical therapist talk to me about how important calf raises were, especially in the aging population, okay, and going heavier.
So what do you think about bone density and like lifting heavier? How does that help?
So important. It actually helps your bones get stronger.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have women in their 50s and 60s and men come in and say, I was just diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia. You know, what do I do? And they think because their bones are fragile, oh, I shouldn't lift heavy, right? Oh, I can't have more than 5 pounds. That's totally wrong. You know, lifting heavier weights is going to make your bones stronger.
Yeah.
So important.
And at the same time, to kind of piggyback off of that, cardio, a lot of the times people think that cardio, from a bone density standpoint, joint standpoint, if that's all you're doing, you're breaking your bones down, your joints down. For example, when I was in my 20s, I had the mindset like, run, you know, and I spent very little time on strength training. I would just like run all the time. And my knees, even today, sound like Rice Krispies a little bit just because I ran too much. But just recognizing that cardio is good. Like we need it. We need it for our cardiovascular health, but you've got to do the right combination. And maybe you can talk about that a little bit of like, I think about how we train in your classes, like your 30-minute class on Monday, like there's cardio in that class, but I'm not stepping foot on a treadmill, you know, but you're doing these little short bursts, these little short moves, burpees, mountain climbers, even jumping jacks.
Yes.
Like the jump rope, even if you don't have a jump rope, these are all like great ways to get cardio in, but you're not pounding on your joints and your bones and your muscles.
So cardio is getting your heart rate up, right?
Yes.
So if we just nix that and say, let's get our heart rate up.
Yeah.
You don't have to jump. You don't have to run and do all that high impacting. You need to move in a way that gets your heart rate up. And a lot of times lifting heavy does.
Yeah.
Putting your hands over your head when you do something with a shoulder press or the jumping jacks.
Right.
You don't even have to jump. You can tap it out.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So, you know, that idea of the word cardio, it kind of just needs to, because some people will say, well, how is my heart rate up when I haven't even done cardio?
Yeah.
Well, that's the bottom line is get your heart rate up.
Yes. Yes.
And that can be done with strength training. And when you do that, you don't have to do as much cardio. We can knock it out with 10 minutes of a walk, right?
Yeah.
We all know how beneficial a walk is.
Right.
Incline walk, a weighted vest walk.
Yep.
Whatever.
Oh, I love my weighted vest. I just got one a couple of months ago. Yeah. And like, not so much right now because the weather's not good, but like when the weather is good, like one day a week, I kind of say, okay, that's my walk day. And I put my weighted vest on and I'll just try and walk like 3 or 4 miles with that. And that's great, you know? Whereas before 10 or 15 years ago, I would have thought, well, I need to go out, run. It's like, no, I don't have to run, you know? And I think a lot of people get caught up with the whole running thing, which leads me to my next point.
Okay.
Find exercise that you like to do.
Yes.
I think that's so
Yes,
key.
that's huge.
You know, we get caught up in our head that we have to do a certain thing. And if that thing is not enjoyable to us, and I'll just use running for an example, because I feel like that's one that a lot of people are like, I hate running. Well, find something else to do. I think that that's really important.
Huge.
Like I truly enjoy strength training. It's enjoyable to me. But if you are somebody that just doesn't like certain pieces of exercise, try and find maybe like walk Pilates is amazing. Yoga is amazing. You know, there's a lot of different options there, but I think that's important for sustainability.
It is. And once again, mixing it up.
Exactly.
You know, mixing it up and not, you know, if you can find 2 things you like, that's even better. You know, maybe you're switching between yoga and Pilates or like you said, but definitely find what you enjoy, you know, especially like at our gym, I see it, like people love dancing. You cannot get me to dance. Like I have no rhythm.
Right.
But when I see those people going after it, you know, they're getting their heart rate up.
Yeah.
They're getting their heart rate up. That's important. And then if you can add a little bit of like, you know, strength training with it, that's huge.
Yes. Yes.
But they enjoy it. They're moving around.
Yeah. How would you, like, let's say somebody's listening and they're just kind of stuck, and they know they need to exercise, they want to exercise more, but they're like, I don't know really where to begin. What would be your suggestion, like a starting point for somebody?
I think that is, you know, you talk about the mental aspect, and it kind of depends on where they're coming from mentally.
Yeah.
Like, are they confident in themselves, but they just don't know where to begin, right? Does that mean I can go for a trainer?
Yeah.
Can I afford a trainer? Can I afford a gym? So that, I wish I could say that was a easy cookie cutter answer.
Blankets.
But you could easily like find 5 moves to do, right? At home. Do 5 moves, whether they're squats, lunges, push-ups. It can even be a wall push-up.
Yeah.
We could do like a jumping jack and let's say a crunch or a sit-up, right? Take those 5 things, do each of them for let's say 30 seconds, and then do them 5 rounds.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
And just do that. Just go into that mind frame of, okay, I'm just going to do something for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I guarantee after those 10 minutes, if not the first day, the second day, you're like, oh, I can do a little bit more. I can do another 15 minutes. How many times have you either gone on a walk or started your workout and you've been in the worst mood ever, or you're just tired?
Yes.
And after 5 minutes, it's okay, I can keep going.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, the getting started part is usually the hardest part. And if you can just kind of push through that and keep reminding yourself how good you're going to feel when it's over. Because I always say, if you can just start rather than skip, it's so much better, because when you skip or when you keep not doing it day after day, that regret and that like, man, why didn't I do it this morning? You know, why? That's why you and I talk too about the morning time, because if it's not done in the morning, a lot of the times we're kind of like, man, I should have got it in. When am I going to get it in? Then the day gets away and you're kind of just, you know, you're left without a workout. So, yeah.
So I've heard a couple of different things when you said, how do we get going? If you're not a morning person, or if that's just absolutely
Or it's
positively not an option,
Right.
There are a couple other routes to look at that. Lunchtime. What do you have around you? Can I do it at lunchtime? If I have an hour break, can I take 20 to 30 minutes to do that? Can I do it at my desk? Yeah, you can, in your office, if you have an office, wherever. Or, you know, I know we all have, you know, people have something, whether it's at night, but you got to figure out when is the best time to squeeze it in. And what can I get rid of? I think that's another thing. Some people say, I can't add another thing.
Yeah. So what can you take away?
What can you take away?
Yeah.
And I guarantee we can all take our phone away for 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think that's the biggest thing, is stepping away from the phone, because we go down that rabbit hole and we just don't get away from it. Or I'm going to look up exercises on my phone.
And then you just get
And then you get stuck. You don't write it down. You don't go do what you need to do.
Right.
So a lot of times I'll also have people say, okay, I'm going to pack my clothes, put them in my car, and I'm not going to go home afterwards. I'm going to go straight to the gym, or straight to a friend's house, or straight to a park if it's nice outside, and walk. Okay. Because we all know once we get home and we sit down, or the laundry or whatever, it gets overwhelming.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different options as far as getting started. Who's the most motivating person in your life too? It may not be your spouse or your kids.
Right.
It may not be.
Right.
You might have to find that friend, or, you know, maybe for a little while you might have to pay somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To get you going.
Yes.
But there are options. I think that's the biggest thing is, as you know, like you said, on the mental side, where am I at? And then what's my next step?
Yes, for sure. I think so too. Yeah, I think, you know, and I talked about this at our seminar we had a few weeks ago, and I think it's really, really important, because I know that I have done it personally. When we think about exercise, especially if you're in a place of like wanting to reach a goal, like you don't like where you're currently at and you like want to lose weight or be, you know, a smaller size or whatever, we get fixated on the end goal. That's too far reaching. That's too down the road. And if you can, again, flip your focus to the effort is the reward. The effort is the goal.
Yeah.
And if you can train your brain, which is totally possible to do this, if you can train your brain to actually like the effort of the hard work. Like I have actually thought to myself when we've been in the gym doing something really uncomfortable, and I'm like, I like this. This is good, because I know I'm pushing myself. I know what's on the other side of it. I know what it's doing to my brain, my body, everything. If you can train your brain to when that you feel that difficulty and that inner resistance, this is actually a good sign. I'm doing hard work. I'm making an improvement. And then day after day, keep doing that. I think that is a big piece in getting started, because if you haven't exercised consistently for a long time, you are going to have the inner pushback. Your brain's going to try and talk you out of it every which way to Sunday, you know, and you have to be able to turn down that inner narrative and push through. That's a huge piece in my opinion.
Especially if you're sore the first week.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to go. I'm sore.
Exactly.
I just did that yesterday and now I'm hurting or I'm sore.
Right.
You know, well, you gave your body a little bit of shock.
Yep.
Let's move. Let's get the soreness out of you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Let's keep moving. Maybe we won't do the same thing. We'll be a little bit more gentle, but we'll move, get us going.
Yeah.
And maybe the reward is I'm sore. I get a nice long bath.
There you go.
I mean, you know what I mean? We've talked about that, you know, is setting things up that are small, little rewards
Yes.
for yourself for something you're doing positive things constantly, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's great. I wanted to talk about, I think we've like hit on a lot of great stuff. The only other thing I would say as far as getting started is I think time blocking or doing, especially people that are really busy, which most people are, if you can find that consistent time most days of the week to this, okay, like this is my exercise time. This is a non-negotiable. That nothing else gets scheduled during this time, like 3 or 4 times a week. This is for me. I think that's another key piece.
So what do you say to somebody that says like, well, my kids need me, or my kids don't understand, you know, why am I gone? Or they try and get me to stay home. Like, have you ever had, like, I get that. Like I had somebody say something to me, and I think once your kids get used to it, like it doesn't take them long. And if they know that mom's coming home or dad's coming home in a better mood, they have more energy for me, which is what's going to happen when you work out.
100%.
Right? They're going to it's just going to be second nature.
Yes. I agree 100%. And my answer would be self-care is not a luxury. It is essential.
Yeah.
When you take care of yourself in this way, you are everything you just said, a better parent, a better partner, a better spouse, a better friend. Like, I know if I did not exercise, I don't know if my family would really want to be around me.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Also, you can invite your kids to go with you if they're old enough. Like, they can go do their own thing while you exercise. You know, I've definitely done that with my kids. I know you do with yours. You know, invite them to be active with you. But do not feel guilty about us women have a tendency, we want to make ourselves feel guilty about anything and everything. This kind of self-care is not something to make yourself feel guilty about. It is essential, in my opinion.
And schedule, like, I mean, your schedule blocking, then everybody knows.
Exactly.
I just had a client ask me that today. She said, so when do you normally work out? And I said, most of the time it's in the morning.
Yep.
But like on Tuesdays, I teach my class, and I, you know, it's easier for me because I'm a gym owner. I get that. People say that. But even when I was an educator, like a lot of people don't know that I taught for 13 years.
Right.
And when I taught, I still actually worked out, right?
Yeah.
I worked out after school, after I was done teaching, right? Before I would pick up my kids from school.
Right.
They didn't know the difference. They're 3 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
Do I want to see them? Of course. But now I've got the whole evening where I'm energized. I feel good.
Yes.
I've released those endorphins, and I'm with them.
100%.
And that's the thing I would like encourage parents, when you're taking your kid to practice, what are you doing during that time frame?
Yes, so I just was taking my youngest Seth, you know, to Athletes in Action, and it's an 1.5 hour long training session. And I was like, I don't really want to just sit here on my phone the whole time. So I would just go out and walk like for at least 30, 40 minutes. And then I go in and watching. Yeah. But just getting that walk in instead of just sitting there and being stagnant the whole time was like good for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to be creative.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Anything else you want to hit on?
Yeah, I think we're good. We're working our way to those goals, those SMART goals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you're kind of like, okay, I've heard all this information. What do I do with it? No. So we want to say, put it into action.
Put it into action.
Okay. So there is something called a SMART goal. I've got a little example here. SMART goal stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So a lot of times when people set goals, it's just too general. And then you're just kind of like willy-nilly trying to like accomplish it, and it doesn't stick. It's not sustainable. You don't follow through. You burn out within, you know, a couple of weeks.
For instance, I'm going to say like somebody comes to me and they say, I want to lose weight.
There you go.
Right?
It's not specific.
That's not specific.
Right.
So I'm going to turn around and say to them, okay, first, like how much weight? Well, first what I'm going to say is we're not going to focus solely on weight.
Exactly.
We're going to focus on inches and how do your pants feel.
Yes.
But let's do all 3 of those things, right?
Right.
So how much weight, specific, let's say 10 pounds in 4 months.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we are getting a little bit more specific.
I would even ask them, why do you want to lose weight?
True.
Like how's your life going to be different when you lose that 10 pounds? You know, how are you going to feel differently? Like you got to tap into a little bit of that motivation behind that goal. But yes, absolutely. Kind of like what, why, how. That's your, you know, your specific part of the goal. So as you're thinking about exercise, what is your specific goal? Then you also want it to be measurable. So for example, I will do strength training 3 times per week and track my workouts in an app. That's a measurable goal. or maybe you use a journal, or you're like, I love to like use my planner and you put little check marks.
Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't have to be anything big, but you're measuring it and you're keeping account of it. It's got to be achievable.
Oh, yeah.
If it's too
20 pounds in 1 month. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So your goal needs to be achievable and realistic. Is the goal within my reach? For example, if you're a beginner, running a marathon in a month is probably too lofty, but jogging for 10 minutes daily is. So that's an example. Relevant. That kind of goes back to what I was saying. Why do you want to lose this? It's got to be something that is relevant, and you kind of ask your question, like, why is this important to me? You know, am I losing, if I want to lose 10 pounds, 10 pounds, do I want to just lose 10 pounds for vanity purposes? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you might get burnout pretty quickly if that's only the reason why. So it's kind of a little deeper about that. And then time bound, setting a deadline, like you said, having those perimeters of, I want it done, but yes, I want it done, but I want it done by this time frame, you know? So when I'm coaching people, I kind of like to ask them 30 days out, 60 days out, 90 days out. What do you want your life to look like? What's different? What's the same? And how are you going to feel? I think that's important too, to kind of reflect on, like, how will I feel when I've accomplished this goal? Yeah. To tap into that motivation. So any thoughts on the SMART goal?
I love it. I used it in teaching. I use it now every time I do a challenge with my clients. They constantly, like, they still don't get it, and we narrow it down and bring it down, and it gives you that chance to check it off. Like you said, like at 30 days, it's not too scary,
right? And
I can see, did I make those a couple goals? Because if you didn't make those goals, we don't start all over,
right?
But we just keep, we backtrack a little bit. We push our goal, or we reevaluate our goal and change it, and that's okay.
And you ask yourself, like, what kept me from reaching it? How did I get distracted? How did I get pulled away from it? It's not a time to beat yourself up, but it's just a time to kind of adjust and reevaluate, for sure. And I think writing these kinds of things down is hugely important. Actually, research shows when you write something down, you're like 80% more likely to follow through. So if you have a planner or a journal and you write down your SMART goal as it relates to exercise, and then kind of maybe every week, just kind of take inventory of how you've done, what's went well, what you can improve, not what you failed, but what you can improve, and then just keep going with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
100%. I want to see people's SMART goals.
I do too. Yes. So if you have listened to this podcast all the way through, if you're still listening, you're probably interested in exercising more. And so we hope that you have picked up some tips and strategies from us today. Where can people find you on social media? Because you do, obviously, if you're local to Springfield, Ohio, they can connect with you at the gym, but you also do online training.
I do online training. So with Flex Trained, or Flex Trained Ohio, I believe is the Facebook pin. And then email.
Yeah. Your email, we can put that
email me. I can definitely help. I can help you create your SMART goals. For sure. We all can. Just where to start. I think that's the biggest thing, is like figuring out where people are in their life.
Yes.
Because there's just like a diet, your workout routine is not one size fits all.
Right. And it's going to change and evolve over time. So
100%. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
We're constantly publishing new content. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.